Hey guys, today I'm in the East Village and I'm super excited because I'm gonna show you my new penthouse listing at 224 East 7th Street. This is the first time it's ever been available for sale, and I'm gonna interview the interior designer and homeowner for you guys. That way you guys can find out what was the inspiration behind combining 4 railroad apartments in the East Village. Let's take a look. You home? Honey, I'm home.
Hello.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
To see you. Thanks for coming.
Good
to see you. Good to see you. Great to see you.
I see you guys.
Hey, have a seat.
Thank you. Every time I'm in this space, I feel like I'm in a magazine, like I'm in Architecture Digest, but in real life. So as I was mentioning to you guys before, this is the first time this penthouse has ever been on the market. David here purchased this penthouse of what, 32 years ago? 35 years ago, wow. And then Layden, who's been recognized by Architecture Digest, designed the space. The viewers want to know, what was your inspiration of buying 4 railroad apartments 35 years ago?
Well, I didn't buy them all 35 years ago,
Okay.
so it was a little bit of a campaign on my part to do it. I wanted to not have a landlord. I was living in the old East Village, and things were pretty cheap. So I could move. In fact, I lived in the building next door. These 2 apartments upstairs became available, but they weren't really livable. So I knocked on the door below and said, "Would you consider selling?" And they said yes.
Wow.
And the apartment down here was 1.5 apartments.
Yeah.
So it was still missing like that corner over there.
Okay.
So and then it took another 20 years to get that other corner.
Oh, wow.
And once I did, that's when Layden came to make it into a single apartment, because I was doing the renovations myself before.
Yeah.
By which I mean I cut a hole in the floor and built a ladder with 2x4s.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I went up and down to bed. But
So you didn't buy this space with this beautiful staircase?
no.
That's our contribution, our collaborative contribution over the last 12 years, 13 years, yeah.
So after 20 years, right, when you finally were able to get the last of the apartment, what inspired you with Layden to create this space? What was the initial inspiration?
Well, I didn't really have so much of a vision for it. As you know, I knew how I wanted to use it, and Layden just saw it.
Yeah.
He saw how to pull it together. He did things I wouldn't have thought of doing, about opening up a really wide staircase and building the central wall that kind of ties the floors together, and it made it, you know, it followed like all the best intuition for creating a place that looks beautiful but also is just great to live in.
And so how do you meet Layden?
How did we meet?
Mutual friend.
A mutual friend. It was
Yes, Tony Whitfield.
Tony Whitfield, who is a dean at Parsons, where you had been teaching.
Correct.
And-
And we had also collaborated on some design projects as well. Right. And he knew my work, and he knew you and what you were. I think a lot of these collaborations have to do with the personality types, and he knew that there'd be synergies.
Yeah, and I just want to say I met Layden in 2015. The first townhouse I ever sold in Brooklyn, in Clint Hill, which was actually, I think, a record at the time that Layden designed it. So,
Wow.
How long have you been an interior designer?
For the same amount of time as David has been collecting apartments. So I've now entered about my 32nd year in the business, but as a practitioner with my own studio, just over 20 years.
Awesome. So when you met David and you was first introduced to this space, what was the initial plan? What was your initial vision for this space?
Well, I think one of the great things, like 20 years early in my career, David giving me the opportunity to like really cut my teeth on the architecture of this space was really exciting. And so he had done a really great job of like envisioning how he wanted to use the space, as he said before. And like, you know, for me, it was just a job of kind of like coalescing and putting together like a kind of a holistic plan that was really structured, like the way the architects and designers work, cleaning up spaces, neatening them up, organizing them, and really just, you know, kind of expanding on what on the DNA that was already here. And also we had a lot of logistical things happening with the apartment. There were all sorts of bumps and hills, and you know, and you know, David during the renovation, you know, one of the great things is that he stayed open. It's like, okay, let's put that extra piece of steel so that we don't have to live with that bump. Let's do this. Let's just do the joist so we have a flat, you know, you know, floor plane.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that there was a 4-inch dip in the center of the apartment. That went down. It was like sway back on both floors.
Absolutely. And so, you know, those are things that they're not, they end up reflecting design, but they can't, you know, those are things that happen during the construction process.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I always say this during construction, there's always bound for a problem to arise. Always. Right? Like that's just gonna happen. What are some of the issues you guys dealt with during the renovation?
I don't think we had any unforeseen things.
No.
The hardest thing that Layden knew from the beginning was that it was going to be really cumbersome to get all the material up here in a walk-up, and it was.
That's right.
And they built this kind of medieval like device to drag things up, and for putting in steel, they had to get small pieces of steel and then
weld them together,
in the
place
space.
it as a single unit. The engineering on this place the place feels peaceful, but the engineering was tough and rough and muscular.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it took over a year.
Yes.
Wow. So the renovation process took a year.
Absolutely.
Over a year. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
And where did you live?
I went to Jersey City, which was my first time in Jersey. I kept saying, you know, it's so convenient here, but I hated it.
Yeah.
Jeez, I hated it. It was like a year and 4 months or something. And I was just bugging Layden going, get me home.
There's a lot of materials here that you don't see in the typical New York City renovation. Like this staircase, I mean, it pops out, there's a leather finish. You have the mix of white brick and the original brick. How did you guys come to that? How do you guys come to like pick out these finishes? Like where did that inspiration come from?
I think for the first time in my career, I really respected and I heard, you know, like as a designer, you have to listen.
Yeah.
So to hear David tell these stories about how the peeling of the decades that he's lived here, you know, it opened me up to going like it didn't have to be one way.
Yeah.
So I would say that David also, he was very committed to being sustainable. Okay. Right. So the materials had to do with anything that we were going to be using. Should be reclaimed. So that's on the wood floors on both levels. And then and just adopting practices. I would say that, you know, it was really a project that I really learned to adopt sustainable practices as a thought process. And then again, in terms of the multiple different finishes, that's just negotiating with my client. Yeah.
Well, you know, actually all the wood is reclaimed. Like these are the joists.
That's right.
That was your idea when we cut the joists out to use them to build the counter in the kitchen.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, I've actually forgotten that. That's amazing.
And,
that's right.
And the vanities in the bathroom are from a wood artist from upstate.
Oh, wow.
Who only works in wood from the county, Delaware County.
Okay.
So it's really unusual choices of wood.
Right.
And I wanted steel. Like steel, I think was my idea. But I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
One of the inspirations was an apothecary. Am I right about that? There was a commitment to, I think in what I heard was like this 19th century, turn of the century building, and we want to infuse it with, instead of calling it industrial look, but you know, just a kind of an atmosphere of that moment in the 19th century where things were made out of steel and forged and couplings and ball bearings, you know, things like that. So I think, and I think David has been consistent about the things he's collected, you know, reflecting that.
I mean, it's a beautiful space, and the new buyer is gonna be really lucky just to be able to purchase this, because again, I've seen so many apartments, and this just feels like a one-on-one. So.
Yeah, it feels like a mansion in the East Village.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what it feels like.
And we built it from the walls out.
That's right.
Everything is new. The floorboards are all gone. Most of the joists were replaced.
Or
sistered. And it's as though we built an old house inside an old building.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So how did you guys come up with the idea for that custom door upstairs?
Well, the geometries of the architecture aren't conventional. There's no door into the bedroom and at the top of the landing. So what we did is we actually kind of fit in like a puzzle piece, like the voided space between like the fireplace wall and the new bookcases we had created to define what's now the primary bedroom. So it's a puzzle piece.
And David, what was the first time you saw that door installed? What was your reaction?
Well, I think I remember watching you draw it.
Yes.
These things just like fly out of Layden's head.
Yeah.
And I went, what? Like a Tetris door.
Exactly.
And I thought it was not going to work.
Yeah.
And that you couldn't mail away for it.
Thank you for your faith in
Well, but you were right.
Yeah.
You were totally right. And it was just like, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
I love to play with it.
Yeah, and it's like you see pocket doors all the time, or you see a typical door, but you never see, I guess we're going to call it the Tetris door, right?
Yeah. The other thing is that we wanted, the space is so beautifully open, and we wanted it to be continued. We didn't want to be aware that the door was there when it was either closed and or open.
Yeah.
So that's where also how the design kind of came to be.
I mean, out of all of the elements in this home, because there's plenty of elements, I feel like there's a moment in every section of this home, but the Tetris door is probably one of my favorite features.
And one of mine too.
All right, always nice seeing you guys.
Hey, thanks for coming by.
See you soon. Hopefully we get this buyer very soon, and, and then later, hopefully we get onto the next project very soon.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, so what do you think about that apartment? Amazing, right? So let's talk about how you can actually afford this place. All right, so at $1,950,000, you're gonna need to make about $313,000. You're gonna need to put 20% down since it is a co-op. That means you need to put at least $390,000 down. Closing costs are gonna be another about $60,000. So all in, your total out-of-pocket costs are going to be $450,000. So your monthly out-of-pocket cost is going to be $10,100 for your mortgage, and since this is a co-op, you're only responsible for a monthly maintenance. That's $2,900. So your total out-of-pocket cost per month is $13,000. All right, Village Square Pizza was amazing. Comment below with your favorite pizza place in the East Village. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys next week.